Today it's my great pleasure to introduce Annahita Hessami, a glass artist based in London. She established her cut glass studios in 2011, and she does new design work as well as traditional work. Very much a hands-on craft artist. She works in the studio creating a lot of her own installations. She's known for these very interesting and very unique geometric designs which you see in a variety of her installations, domestic installations. Annahita posts regularly on Instagram. That's where I first encountered her work, and she put together a little compilation of some of her recent collaborations, which I'm going to play for you now, along with the usernames of the collaborating artists, giving them full credit for their work as well.
Don't know for them, this history them a rise against the eye. Don't know one, but still a whole a vibe. Jafire burn the hypocrites and the parasites. Don't know one, but still a whole a try. I judge alone a guide over right. Even though, don't know one, but still a whole a vibe. As long as there is music.
Keep the funk in their music.
I think one of Annahita's great strengths is the fact that she does collaborate with a lot of creatives outside the glass world, and she brings these people into the studio to create really fresh and exciting pieces of work. I hope you enjoyed today's interview. If you liked it, please leave a like and leave suggestions and comments for future artists whom you'd like me to interview. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Hi, Annahita, and welcome to the Creative Experience.
Hi, Derek. Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's lovely to meet with you. I've been following you for a long time on social media, particularly on Instagram, and absolutely loving the work that you're showing. You seem to have a wide variety of work. You do sort of traditional work, you do etched glass, and you do these amazing collaborations as well.
Yeah, I've been very lucky. I think being in London and meeting so many other creatives has definitely fueled that. But also this new thing that we've come to get used to of social media and the internet has also helped hugely. So yeah, without that, I was kind of just jabbing along on my own in a little room, and you know, it was only the people that were local to me that really knew what I was doing and that I was there. So I was never really open to being on the internet. I never wanted like a social media of myself and what I had for lunch and, you know, what I get up to in my spare time. But people kept trying to encourage me to do it for the business. But I still felt shy. I still didn't really want to put myself out there in that way. But even so, it's worked massively. But it is a huge part of my day. Like, you know, it takes up a lot of time. It's a lot of energy. And a lot of people say, you know, why don't you just get somebody else to manage it? And then I feel like, well, what would be the point of having it if somebody else is managing it? It's not me. It's not my personality. It's not what I'm conveying. So I don't see the point of that. So. But yes, it's we do a lot of different things, mainly because we're a commercial business. So we get people approaching us for projects in restaurants, in their private homes, pretty much any building that has stained glass in it. So, because obviously we're here, we're running, we're open. And we also do a huge amount of contracted work. And since the contractors are aware of our talents here, they kind of push us a lot more now than they used to. So we used to do a lot of very basic windows, but even the contractors are starting to get a bit more elaborate with their designs, and people are more aware, I think, of craft in general, and this craft, you know, it's become quite mainstream.
So how did you start in glass? What was it? What's the story for you how did you get into it?
It wasn't a plan. It wasn't ever on my agenda, really. I didn't even think of it as a job that was available or existed. So I went to uni for 7 years. I should have been a doctor or something more useful. But I went to do fashion, and I graduated when I was 19 from London College of Fashion. But by that stage, I was very young, but I'd done a lot of work experience, I'd done lots of things, and I'd kind of gone 360 with it and decided, I really thought I wanted to be a fashion designer, and I really do feel that I'm good at design, but I didn't want to be part of that world. So I graduated and I went back to uni, and I funded myself through another degree at London College of Printing, and I did surface design, which was screen printing, etching, embossing, bookbinding, that kind of thing. So all working with your hands, much like the fashion, because that was all hand drawn. We did lots of block making. You know, it wasn't on any CAD machines or anything. It was all prior to that, sadly. But I really enjoyed the print stuff. And then when I left uni, I was offered 3 or 4 jobs, and I took them all because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And one of those jobs was in stained glass. So I said yes. I split my week. I was working for bookbinders. I was working for a gentleman in Chelsea. I was designing a menswear range for him, which I'd never done because I did women's wear at fashion school. And I was working... where else was at a stained glass studio in Hertfordshire, and that I just loved the most. You know, I was there for about 3 days a week. I wasn't getting paid, and I went into the studio to replace Annahita van der Merwe, who's a South African artist that you must know. She's fantastic.
Yes,
and so,
I've interviewed her.
Yeah, so that's where I met Annahita, and she taught me the basics, and then from there I had to take over from her because she couldn't stay, sadly. But we became really good friends, and we've stayed in touch, and obviously we've done our own things separately, sadly, because we really wanted to do it together. But yeah, I mean, that's where I first started. And unfortunately for the gentleman that we worked for, I wasn't Annahita, so we didn't get on so well. So I ended up starting up by myself. And this is where I'm at 15 years later. Just
going back to the range of work that you specialised in, it's amazing. I mean, you were talking about bookbinding, you're talking about fashion, you're talking about printmaking.
Yeah.
I mean, you're obviously adventurous, and you're not afraid of a challenge, and you like to learn new skills.
Sure, yeah. Always pushing for something else. I mean, I think the surface design was probably the best amount of exploration that I'd done prior to exploring creativity in a workplace. You know, I did a lot of work experience at uni. I think being at uni in London and at a very good art school really did help. You know, we got a lot of encouragement to go out there and learn what actually working in the creative sector is, rather than just sitting in a classroom and learning something. And I think through that experience, you know, I ended up going to a company in Hackney, in a place that I was even scared to go, down the back roads of Hackney. And we did I was working on the costumes for like Phantom of the Opera and The Lion King and stuff, you know, when I was at fashion school. And that was really cool. But I knew that I wasn't going to be able to set up a business like that at 19 and make a success of it. So I knew that the reality was I'd have to keep working in restaurants and keep doing what I'm doing until I find something that really speaks to me. And when I started doing stained glass, I just couldn't believe that it was so much fun, and you know, and that it existed in the sense that it does, and people still do it. You know, it's just something that you thought was part of a building, and it's just there. You know, you never really think of it in its own sense. You know, it's in a door, it's in a hallway. You know, you think of it, you look at it, and you appreciate its beauty, but you don't necessarily think about where that's actually come from.
And also, it seems that the other areas that you've been working in are also kind of applied arts, working with your hands.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
Making clothes, bookbinding. It's all applied art skills. Do you enjoy?
Well, yeah, I always knew that, even at
that?
school. So I even got my mum to kind of back me, and I got out of doing all the kind of, academic subjects, and I pushed, and I did art, drama and textiles for GCSE. So, you know, I really said, you know, this is me, like, this is what I want to do. I don't know what, but... And I remember my art teachers at school weren't very encouraging. They told me I wasn't very good. So I've been told that quite a lot, actually, and I still get told that. So it's fascinating, different people's opinions on you know, someone's journey or what they're attempting or what they're doing. So, yeah.
I think also the fact that you've had a rich background in collaborative work means that you're really, it seems very open to collaboration now. That was one of the main things I wanted to talk to you about today. There's some really interesting projects where you're bringing other artists in and you're interpreting other artists' work.
Yeah.
And it's really diversifying. And I think that that's part of the great strength of what you're doing, is that you're kind of showing that you can do, you can make glass applicable in so many different areas.
Yeah, why not?
How did that first start for you? When did you start collaborating with other artists?
I think the first one I did was with an American guy called Bo Stanton, and that was, I think it was in 2014, so it was quite a long time ago now. Can't believe it's that long ago. But that didn't go down so well. You know, he treated me quite badly, and I was treated as a technician, even though I pretty much had to redesign his whole project, make it work in glass. I chose the whole color palette. I taught him how to, you know, do a few things, and then at the end of it I wasn't credited, which was the only thing that I'd asked for, really. I dropped the price hugely to help him out. That made it very difficult for me, and then after I did that, so many people started approaching me to do it. You know, please collaborate with me, I'd really love to do this. Oh, I'd love to see my work through, you know, through your medium. And I was so put off by the idea, because I was like, oh, I don't want to do that again. Like, you know, that wasn't a very nice experience. But the next person that I ended up working with was Charlie, Pure Evil, and he's a UK-based artist. And I felt that culturally we understood each other better, and maybe the system over here is slightly different in the art world, but he told me, like, there's no way that I'm not going to put your name on this. Like, everybody knows I can't make this. So I went for it, and I did the big pink Audrey Hepburn head, and that was an amazing experience. And that's basically what kept me going, because if I hadn't have done that one, I probably just would have said no to everybody. But Charlie kind of changed my mind.
There's always the potential, I suppose, of egos, isn't there? Where, like, two creatives,
Yeah.
does it work? Does it not work? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have a big issue with egos. Like, you know, we're all humans at the end of the day. So I just think, you know, we should just, if we've got a great idea, then if we work together on it and everything that comes out of it is positive, then it's going to have a much deeper and larger impact. Whereas when you selfishly claim something for yourself, you're only going to show that to a small market that is only yours, and then people are going to ask you for things that you're not capable of. So good luck with that. Is how I see it. You know, I had my work like completely ripped off by another studio in Brazil, like to the T. They copied the lead profiles, the glass colors, everything, and I was absolutely heartbroken. Like, who does that? This company's been running longer than I've been alive. Like, what is the point of being a community if we're not going to be a community? The law doesn't protect us as artists. The moment you put something online, you're giving it away. And I've seen my ideas in many places, like many places. So it's not just those things, you know. So it's life, isn't it? If you're going to do things and you want to put it out there, then that's just part and parcel, I think.
So talk a little bit more about some of the other collaborations that you've been working on. There was, you work with a painter who has this mask idea.
So, yeah,
tell me a little bit more about that.
Findak's work is amazing. I know Finbar just through the art scene here in London, and yeah, his work is incredible. He's a street artist, but does the most beautiful canvases and explores different styles, but always has this, you know, mask on his ladies, and he celebrates women beautifully through his work. So I was really honoured when he asked me to make a piece for his show. But yeah, I mean, it was a huge challenge. I think that's probably one of the hardest things that I've made, and I decided to make it even harder by fusing the flowers and trying to give it some other element of something, just because his work's so amazing. I was like, I can't put my work next to his. And then and the pressure of like trying to make something that someone spent 20 years perfecting, you know. I've never done anything in that style. Like, I've just got to somehow come up with it. Like, that was hard. Yeah, it was very hard.
It worked though. It worked really well,
It was
didn't it? It was
beautiful.
fantastic.
Yeah, but sadly, I think it was one of the only 2 pieces in the show that didn't sell.
He's probably keeping it for his own private
He
collection.
does have it on his wall, yeah. He sends me pictures all the time. He loves it. So yeah, maybe that's why.
So you all, besides stained glass, I remember talking with you sort of via text messages last year about a long freeze that you did for a swimming pool. Tell us a little bit about that project.
Yeah, so when I first started out, I met this couple in West London who asked me to fix their front door. So I went to their house and I fixed their front door. And then they said, you know what, we're doing an extension on the side of the house and we'd like a window for the staircase because, you know, it's the lady is a psychiatrist, so obviously her customers will walk up this staircase, and it was lovely. So I did a modern piece in the staircase, so I've done a very traditional set for the front door, and then this very modern piece for their staircase. And then they were renovating the garden and having a pool put in, and they wanted me to build a mosaic to go down the side of the swimming pool. So this was in my first 2 years of business, 2 or 3 years of business, so it was a massive undertaking, and my studio was absolutely tiny at the time. I used to have to put my lead boxes as like my floorboards, and so I'd walk on the lead boxes, and my bench was built into the wall, and I couldn't walk around it. I only had one, you know, I could only stand at my bench, and otherwise it was in a little cubby hole, and I had storage above my head, and my lead, I had to pull it and open the door in order to pull my lead. That's how long the studio was. So it was even shorter than a cane, you know. So that's what I was dealing with. And I was trying to build this 10-meter long mosaic. So it's like a meter tall and then 10 meters long. And I came up with this way of doing it by cutting boards and sticking the glass to the boards, and then taking the boards to the site and sticking all the glass directly to the wall. They didn't want me to put boards on the wall for some reason, so I had to take thousands of cut pieces of glass there and stick them all individually. First time round I did it, fantastic. 10 years later, for some reason the guys who'd built the wall hadn't done it very well, and there was so much damp in the wall that everything, you know, the wall had failed, so they had to rebuild it. And she said, I'm really sorry, but we've taken your mosaic down. And she sent me it back in tubs. So all the glass that had come off the wall was sent back to me in tubs. And she asked me, can I just put it back up? And I literally was just like, no. So we came to an agreement and we did it again. And I said, look, I don't want to do the same design. I'm 10 years on as a person, you know, and I'm 10 years on as a designer, and I'm 10 years on as a maker. So let's do something better. And so, yeah, I did it again in a bigger studio, but still was just as much of a challenge. And I had to run it behind all the work that we do here for about, I think I had about 9 months I was working on that, because it's just so big. There's so much glass. There's so much to work out, and there was only certain times that I could actually lay it all out, because I have to, you know, I have staff here and we have to share the studio. The studio needs to work. So can't just have my mosaic everywhere.
You mentioned staff. How many people have you got working there then?
So at the moment, there's 4 of us.
That's amazing. I mean, that's like a hungry baby to feed. That you have to have a lot of work to keep 4 people busy. Yeah.
Yeah, we're very busy. I mean, like I say, the contracted work is just relentless. It never stops.
Well, the thing is, as well, you're in London, which is culturally, like from an arts point of view, fantastic for making connections. And do you find that you're kind of finding a lot of people coming in who's maybe found you on Instagram and just want to come and visit the studio? Does it work that way for you?
Do get a lot of that. Yeah, I get a lot of, I mean, I've had people visit from all over. We do open house London every year, and we'd had, you know, people come specifically to our studio from Japan, you know, people who follow me online and things like that. So things like that blow my mind, you know. And that's when I was in my tiny studio and they were coming and, you know, packing in to see it and see what I'm doing. And I'm just like, what is going on? You know, I'm just me from Palmer's Green. It just doesn't make sense.
But, you know, it says a lot about what you're making in glass. You're kind of showing people how exciting and fresh glass can be. So many people have got this tired, sort of stale view of what glass is. It's church work and it's kind of like Victorian, and yeah, it has its place. And I know you still do quite a lot of Victorian panels and things like that. But your new work is kind of, it's pushing all the right buttons. You're kind of showing people and exciting people, and I think that's the future of glass. That's why I was so keen to talk to you today, because I I've talked to other artists about, how we're going to get that next generation excited, and they're not teaching it at art colleges and things like that anymore. Do you find that you're putting your work out online is a great way of kind of inspiring other people?
I definitely think I am inspiring other people, yes, because I get a lot of nice feedback all the time, so it's fantastic. It's just when I have a lot of people, especially when I advertise for help at the studio, I have a lot of people who want to come here because they want to build the windows that I'm making, or they say to me, I want to be you, I want to do what you're doing. And to me, like, that's just the worst thing that you could say to any artist. It's like, if you want to be anything, it should be you being you. Yeah, I don't want you to come here and emulate what I'm doing. I want you to come here and bring something fresh. Like, we all need to keep moving this forward. Like, don't copy what I'm doing. Use it as an inspiration and take it somewhere else. Take your style, take your creativity, take your talent and use it for yourself, not for somebody else and not for any other reason. I'm just having fun. I'm taking things where if I had something, I would love that, so I'll make that. Or thinking outside of the proverbial box of what stained glass is, like, why does it have to be that? Why do they make all these amazing colours if no one's bloody using them? Like, come on. So yeah, that's why does it have to be fuddy-duddy and boring or traditional or any of those things? It can be whatever you want it to be, much like any form of art.
100%, absolutely 100% agree with you. And I love also the fact that you're talking about it doesn't have to be square or traditional shapes. You create these lovely, almost like signs, these very interesting
obviously
things.
Not functioning objects. Yeah. They're just things, which I don't particularly enjoy building things for no purpose. Like, I generally have so much more love for a set of windows that I've built that's going to really impact a building. Like, that to me has so much more value than kind of any piece that I've made that goes into a light box. Like, I think those art pieces are lovely, but truly making a difference to someone's life and their home and their surroundings is a much more rewarding thing for me, even as an artist.
Just out of interest, where do you see the future of glass going then? Do you see it going into more kind of work that's not traditional, or how do you see it developing? Where do you want to push it?
A lot of the kind of very contemporary stuff is like laminated. People are going away from using the traditional techniques of like leading things, like in terms of architectural stained glass. But I don't know is the answer to that. I don't really think about it. I'm in my own little bubble, just doing what I'm doing. Like, I didn't learn stained glass at school. I didn't learn it in any formal capacity, really. I learned it on the job in a trade perspective. I was always told, don't waste materials, you've got to get this done as fast and as efficiently as we can. That's how I approach it. And then it just got to a point where I was experimenting for myself, and that's what pushed it outside of that box. So I don't know is the answer. I wouldn't want to say where's the future of glass going. Who am I to say?
The fact that you are open to all options with glass is the way forward, and I think more creatives need to be like that.
You can do so much with it. I think people are always quite shocked, like especially like even just the Amara piece, which I think is quite simple in terms of production. I've just fused some very basic eyes that go around the edges and then painted a small amount of detail in just trace paint. There's no enamel, there's no real skill that's gone into that. The skill is the technical ability to be able to make something that crazy. That was really even hard for me. I swore at that thing so many times. I was so ready to smash it at one point. I was like, the frustration. But people are kind of shocked, the amount of process that has to go into something like that. And I still deem that as quite a fairly simple approach. Like, your work has got far more process in it. That would blow some of the people that come in here, and we're blowing their minds. they see something that's fully painted and it's got that amount of technical skill and ability in it, that would blow their minds even more, you know. I think what I'm doing is very much on the base level.
Do you know what I find frustrating though is the fact that there is so much process in glass. Like you have an idea, and you can put it down on paper, you can see it, you can paint it on a canvas, and you can see it straight away. Making a stained glass window is weeks of work before you go, nah, I don't like that. You know what I mean? You do all that process and you think, nah, that's not really working. It's because it takes such a long time to get there. And I think sometimes getting a quick result of just cutting some really exciting glass and lighting it together in interesting and unusual shapes is the way forward, because you can get a result much more quickly. And I get frustrated by the process as well. Do you have any time, any spare time to kind of develop your own creative ideas, or are you working to commission most of the time?
I'm always, because I'm always so behind. So I'm always stuck working. It's never ending, the projects that come in and people wanting to push me with what they want, and you know, and I find enough excitement in that for now. But I definitely am getting an itch. There's something that I really want to make, and I've wanted to make it for probably over a year now, and I haven't even been able to start drawing. So when we moved into this big studio, I unfortunately made a big mistake, and I went back to the old studios and I tidied up without a mask on my face, and I got exposed to a huge amount of lead dust from tidying up the old studios, and I got very sick. So since then I have been, until recently, I've been working at about 50% power, if you could say.
Really?
Because I've just not been well at all. I've been in and out of hospital an awful amount, and it's really played havoc on my body. So I think, you know, yes, we are a high production studio, but there's so many things that you need to consider in and amongst what we're doing. You know, there's the health and safety aspect. You know, you can't be too busy to give a shit about yourself, you know, and these are the things that have kind of set me back a bit. I now take weekends off. I don't work every day. You know, I set boundaries for myself, and I have to spend a considerable amount of time out of the studio to enable my body to, you know, just feel stronger and healthy, because I'm not going to be able to get rid of the amount of lead that was in my system. It's just going to be there. The doctors in this country don't help you, because unfortunately I run a business and it's a work-related illness. So NHS-wise, you're not entitled to any help. So it's been quite hard. I've had to hire lots of private doctors, and I've done a lot for myself. And now, you know, we keep the studio incredibly tidy and incredibly clean, and I have, you know, extractors and everything that I possibly can. You know, we all work with gloves on, and you know, it's changed my life in a big way. So, you know, it made me incredibly ill. It's made me reassess a lot of my life. So even though we are still very busy and I'm still producing a lot of work, I'm definitely approaching it with a very different mindset than I did. I still enjoy what I do. I still love it. You know, it was more of a slap in the face to be like, respect what you're doing, you know, like, don't let it take over your life. Take a step back, and, you know, you are important. You go first, not the business.
Now, before the interview started, we were talking about maybe 3 of your favorite projects, and you said, look, I can't really tell you 3 of my favorite projects, but I do have to ask you, do you have 3 projects that you want to particularly highlight that you know, for whatever reason, you just feel are really particularly significant to you in your career?
I think the Pure Evil piece that I made it's one of my favorites. It's a beautiful piece, but it's the one that, like, every day I get an email from Pinterest and it's got my bloody window in it, and so I feel like that one is the one that kind of started a lot of this, oh my god, this is what you can do with glass, you know. So maybe that one's quite important in that sense, because it showed, it got a lot of exposure. It went on the telly. Charlie's pretty well known, so that kind of started this kind of itch. And then I think a lot of people started talking to me a lot about, oh my god, I never really thought you could do this, and and it's like, but why not? You know, if you've got a skill, you know, it's wherever you can take it. It's not, oh, just because I've seen a window that looks like this is what all windows look like. Well, why? You know, so fashion doesn't do that. You know, nothing else on earth does that. So why should stained glass? Everything else evolves. So, you know, we need to keep moving forward. We're in the modern world now. People don't necessarily want blue and red windows for church, you know, church style, because that's, when I think about the really old medieval style, they were all very predominantly blue and red and quite dark. And I'm quite adverse to using too much dark colour and too much brightness. I know that may seem weird, but I do try and keep quite subtle palettes and then put a pop in there, not necessarily all popping. Probably my favourite that I've done, because it's close to my heart, would be a piece I did with a Persian calligrapher, K. Khosrow, and we made a piece, a cutout piece, and it basically reads, "I was the sand and you were the desert." So not only is it kind of relevant to glass because it's about sand, it's kind of relevant to me and my upbringing and the fact that I'm Persian. So I really enjoyed making that, and I want to do more Persian and Middle Eastern art that's more true to me. I mean, I do enjoy doing the contemporary stuff, it's fantastic, but I want to start doing things that are more me.
I mean, there's so much to unpack in everything that you've said today. It's absolutely brilliant. I think one of the most interesting things that you said was really kind of stuck with me was, you said no other art form does what stained glass does and just repeats the same pattern. Fashion doesn't do it. Nothing else does it. And you're absolutely right. Why are we so sort of bound by tradition and by kind of what's been done before has to be still done, you know?
I think they need to be more lively, they need to be more current, they need to be more relevant to the world today, and not their world of whatever it was, because it's not that anymore. So it's not that I'm closed to everybody, but it's just, I'm just going to stay here because I don't really want to be influenced by any nonsense that I'm not really into.
This cross-pollination with other creatives, I think it's the way forward. I really believe it is the way forward in what you're doing, that kind of openness to new ideas and not being bound by tradition and kind of being influenced by what's been done. That's the orthodoxy. No, it's fantastic. Annahita, I've really loved talking with you today. It's been really, I've been hoping to be able to speak with you for a while, and I really love your work, and I love the fact that you're pushing glass in new and exciting directions.
Thanks so
so much for speaking with me today.
That's very humbling. Thank you so much.
As long as you're disputed, we still don't wanna